Alright guys, today we're going to be doing a video on Google Stadia versus xCloud. Now, Google Stadia, for those of you guys who don't know, is obviously a cloud-based system where you can basically play games and you don't need any console, you don't need any actual device. You can actually just open up Google Chrome, log in, and all the games are there and they're start up instantly. There's no updates or anything like that at all. You can also use a Chromecast if you want to, play in 4K and stuff on your TV. You got a Chromecast Ultra. Plug that in and set that up, and then you're playing games on there too. And you can use it on your phone as well. Now xCloud, being a little bit different of a service, now xCloud. Now xCloud currently is a little bit of a different service because right now you can only actually do xCloud on your actual Android phone or Android device. There's no PC application or any web browser support or anything that you could do on your TV. It's strictly just for Android right now, even though they are testing apparently an application for your PC, so it is coming. And xCloud actually does 720p on their streaming service right now only, and Stadia actually goes up to 4K depending on what device you're using on and what we see. So we're gonna try this out on a bunch of different devices. We're gonna try Google Stadia here on the PC first, then we're going to try it on Chromecast on my TV in 4K. I'm going to show you my internet speed and all that, so everything is apparent. We're going to try some things on wireless. I have a Moki i7 here, which is an Android device that you can see here that I've done a review on before. We're actually going to take a look at xCloud on here, where it has these controls and stuff. Even though this device is not fully technically supported according to them, it actually works really well, so I'm going to try that out. So yeah, we're going to try out all these devices, all these different games, show you guys how they perform, if there's any hitches or anything like that. And full notice here is that I have a 1 gig internet line here. I have a fiber optic line coming into the house. So I'm going to show you those speeds just for proof. So if I don't get these services to run good, I don't know who will, because I had probably higher internet than 90% of what everyone else is going to be using this service with. So anyways, let's go ahead and dive in and take a look at this. I'm excited to take a look at these two services and compare them against each other. So let's go ahead and dive in.
Gaming tech, eating brekkie is the gaming tech, going for a recce is the gaming tech, gaming techie is the gaming tech, gaming techie.
Alright guys, so here we are with Google Stadia on the PC. We're going to be trying this on the PC first. I have this on a 4K monitor running, so it is going to be running at 4K. Before we actually get into the actual gameplay, I'm going to show you guys the speed test so you know that I am not making any of this up and what my actual internet connection is. You'll see right here. So you can see the internet speed that I'm getting right now. And the current upload speed that I'll be getting as well. Go ahead and dive in here. So the games, I'm a premium subscriber right now. So with Google Stadia, we have the controller here, of course, so we can actually play this without a keyboard and mouse for some of these games. So we're going to try a couple of different games on here. The three I'm going to try is Power Rangers, Panzer Dragoon, and Orcs Must Die 3 for a couple of minutes each on here. And those are the three that we are going to basically test on all of the devices that we're going to be using on, so that way we have the same idea on all of them. So let's go ahead and you click on the top browser here to link the controller. You basically just turn it on, wait for the white light to turn on, and then after the white light turns on, it's going to start blinking, waiting for the input here like it says to link the controller. So I link the controller. You give it like a second. There you go, it says controller linked. Really easy to link the controller on Google Stadia when you want to travel from device to device, which I really like because, as you can see, you can link it to a computer, and then I'll do the exact same thing on my Chromecast device, and it's just really, really easy. So let's go ahead and dive in. Let's do Power Rangers first. You can see it pops up. You just hit play. It goes into full screen, as you can see. And you can always open up your Stadia for friends by pressing Shift-Tab on the PC. So this will give you your friends list. You can check the controller if you need to, link any more controllers. You can check the options for volume and stuff like that on here. You can also check your connection, which is currently testing. You'll see this light up in green here in a minute once the game starts. There you go. It says no issues detected. Excellent. And it tells you the data usage. Alright, so let's go ahead and give this game a shot here. Something else you can check as well. It will also tell you who you're like the game that you're actually playing when you're on here and stuff, so you can take a look at your friends and stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and dive into just the arcade mode here. This game is actually really, really fun. I'm obviously not that good at it yet, but this game is actually really fun. So we'll do one stage of this so you guys can tell what this looks like here and what you guys can expect. So, fighting game obviously needs to be perfect as far as lag and stuff, or you're not going to be able to play very well. And as you can see here, I'm having no trouble with the controller playing this game. No lag. I wouldn't even know right now that I am playing on Google Stadia. Of course, my computer's, you know, not wireless or anything. It's plugged in through Ethernet, so of course it would be good based on that connection speed. And like I said, I'm not very good at this game because I just started playing it. So still getting used to the controls and how this all works.
Yellow Ranger, power up!
Just got smacked there.
Dragon Sword!
So yeah, there was some lag there when that special happened for some odd reason, as you guys saw. Didn't actually affect my gameplay, but the screen definitely lagged a little bit. Didn't do it on that special, so that was strange actually. So there's definitely still going to be some inconsistency sometimes with any of these streaming services. The catch is that you need to have really good internet connection, and those hiccups that you just saw have to be really, really far and few between. If not, you're not going to like the service. And that's actually the first time I've actually seen that stutter for a second like that. But like I said, it didn't affect my movement or anything. It just affected what you guys saw on the screen. I was still able to move like normal. But so yeah, you can see that this game is working really, really well. Let's go ahead and press this button here. Actually, you gotta hold it down to exit the game. It always tells you to like rate it. I'm gonna give it a good just because of that hiccup. So let's try Panzer Dragoon. So you can see here, Panzer Dragoon, we're here at the main menu. So let's go ahead and start game. We'll continue where I left off last time. Here we go. And you could play this with a mouse and keyboard if you want. I'll switch to a mouse and keyboard for the last game here. Of course, you can also switch to the side. Smack them all over the place. You can see that this game works well as well. No real lag going on or anything like that. I can't really tell about any input lag or anything like that. When I think I'm shooting. I'm no like 100% expert on it. I'm measuring milliseconds of time here, but I'm playing the game and it works perfectly fine, and I don't have any issues with anything. It's just like the 99% of the time in that tower in this game. So this is working well. As you can see, frame rate is rock solid at 60, and it's working well. So let's go ahead and back out of this. Let's go ahead and turn off the controller so it's not synced. We're gonna use the mouse and keyboard for Orcs Must Die 3, the game that just came out on Google Stadia. Here at the main menu. Continue the story mode. And here we are.
If only the oldest living war mage
Let's
can open this,
create some
wouldn't that mean-
defenses here.
Yes, Kelsey. The oldest
Let's
is
go
Master
ahead and
Cygnus
add
if
this
he is still
here.
alive. But why would Master Cygnus
I just started
open
playing this
rifts
game
for
recently,
orcs
so
to
I'm
pass
definitely
from
not
other worlds?
very
I
good
know
yet.
rifts provide
But
magic,
I'm starting to
this
get the hang of
magic
it.
is not a positive force.
Keep the orcs at bay. I must travel
Let's go ahead
elsewhere
and
for
place one of
answers.
these right here.
Great. We fight the bad guys. She takes a vacation. It's cool.
And let's go ahead and do one of these. Right here.
Deadly.
And let's go ahead and just unleash.
Okay, here I come.
No need to get crazy here. I'm just going to show you guys round one. So you guys see how it runs.
Enemies are preparing to breach one of our gates. They've broken through a gate.
See the enemies coming at me here.
Not happening.
Enemies at the rift.
You can see that this game, for some reason, does lag more than the other ones do. Which has always been strange to me. That was not a good round. You can see that like there wasn't slowdown with my character, but you can see that there was some slowdown within the FPS there when you're moving around and stuff. And I don't really get this in most of the other games. Like the racing game I played is fine. This game, for some reason, stutters every once in a while. Like
More enemies
what you
on
just
the
saw. Well, it's
way.
not really a stutter. It's like a hang up there with the FPS. But for the most part, it runs well, and there's not really an issue.
These little dudes are
But
so fast.
Those are kobolds. They'll also set off our traps.
But yeah, you guys get the idea of what this runs like. Like I said, it runs for the most part well
They're almost
for this
there.
game, but it seems like this game has a little bit more random hiccups than any of the other games I've play tested on Stadia so far. It still runs well enough that I would definitely play it, but there's definitely sometimes of some lag, like you saw with the actual FPS and stuff going behind.
There are enemies in
So
our rift.
let's go ahead and exit out of this. Quit out of that. You can exit the game there. So that's a little bit of what the PC side is like playing this game on there. We're gonna go ahead and switch now to the Chromecast. Play a couple of more games on the Chromecast so you guys get an idea of how those games work. Now we're going through Chromecast, but remember that the Chromecast only has the max output on the Ethernet jack that's on there is 100 megabits per second. That's the Ethernet jack limitation. So my PC that you just saw is technically going to be faster because it can go over 100 megabits because it's a 1 gig Ethernet port, but the one on the Chromecast is not. So the max it can go is 100. Obviously 100 is plenty for what Google Stadia requires, but just to give you guys all the facts on what's different about it, something to keep in mind. So let's go ahead and switch to the Chromecast now. Alright guys, so here we are on the Chromecast here, so I'm going to turn on my controller again. As you can see, you can actually link up your Chromecast so you don't have to use your phone or anything. I could just turn the Chromecast on. You can see it says the Stadia controller up top, so if you link that, like I'm about to do right now, it will sync with the controller and it automatically recognizes the controller, and now you're in there with the controller and it's bringing up the Google Stadia interface. Now on the Chromecast currently, you can only look at the games that you actually already purchased or own or have on your account. You can't navigate the store or anything. For that you have to go on the actual phone app. Alright, so one more time we're going to do Power Rangers on here. and then we'll do a couple of new ones. We'll do Power Rangers for reference, and then we'll do Grid on here as well, so you guys get an idea of what that runs like, a racing game would run like. But let's do Power Rangers one more time. Alright, so let's go ahead and start.
It's morphin' time! Time for Time Force!
And if you pause this game and you look at the connection, you'll actually see that it actually says that this game doesn't support 4K. So we're not playing in 4K, we're just playing at whatever resolution the game supports, because not every game supports HDR, not every game supports 4K, and this one is not one of them. So, reference here. So that gives you guys a reference. This game does look really good on here, but it's not 4K that this game is running at. So we'll definitely try one of those after.
Now you're in trouble.
So this gives you guys an idea. This runs, like I said, extremely well. No issues with it at all. Runs extremely smooth. Got him with that block, though. He got me with that block. Alright, but you guys get the idea. You can exit the game here. Also give it a good rating. I'm going to give it an excellent on here because I had no issues there at all. And you can also check your connection here as well, just like before. So let's go ahead and jump into the racing game, Grid. So you guys get a different feel of another game that runs on Stadia and how well it runs on here or not. So let's go ahead and just dive into a quick career match here.
Put that pinky down and put your tea away, because it's race day at Silverstone. Kristen, what are your thoughts?
Well, Alex is way baby.
Now this game, as opposed to the other one, is running in 4K. So this game does support 4K resolution. And we'll get into more about Stadia's 4K resolution at the end of this video.
Okay, good luck.
FYI, I am not good at these games because I'm more into arcade racers. But I will do my best to show this game off. This game does look really good, as you can tell, though. I thought I was going to crash right there. So you can see here that this game also looks really good. It's running in 4K, no issues at all, no dips in frames, no artifacting or anything like that. It's just running extremely well. Another game that, like I said, you would never know that this game is not running natively on your hardware. You would think I'm playing this on Xbox right now, and you would never know. So it's running extremely well, and it looks fantastic as far as this game goes. No slowdown, no nothing. And if you look at the connection here, just for proof, you can see 4K resolution is on and HDR supported in this game as well, which of course my TV does support as well. So 4K resolution and HDR, connection excellent. So you can see that HDR and how good this game looks with HDR and 4K resolution.
Moving up, lap 2. We are chasing the pack.
So yeah, let's go ahead and exit this game here. That gives you guys an idea of what this looks like on here. Let's go ahead and now switch over to the wireless portion of this. We're using the handheld device. Now going to a wireless connection instead of using wired like we've been doing so far. Alright guys, so here is the wireless device. We're going to start again with Google Stadia, but first I want to show you guys a speed test on this device as far as my Wi-Fi, because this is obviously different than wired now. We're not going to get the same speeds by a long shot on Wi-Fi as we would before. So we're again going to check this out here. Speed test. So still really good speeds and definitely way over what Google Stadia needs. But of course not as high as what the PC can output. But still extremely good speeds on Wi-Fi on this device regardless, as you can tell. And the upload speeds are basically just as good. So, that gives you guys an idea of what to expect on this device. So, let's go ahead and open up Google Stadia here. Now, the reason that you see touchscreen buttons on here, the L and the R and the L3 and the R3, is because, as you can tell on this device, there is no, unfortunately, there's missing buttons. There's no L2, R2, and these are unclickable analog sticks, so sometimes you want to, switch that out. So again, we're going to start off with the Power Rangers game because I think it's the easiest one to show off. Now, Google Stadia is not technically supported on this device. You can enable it and it just works, and I haven't had any issues with it. Same thing when it comes to Xbox streaming that we're going to try on here as well, is that they're not technically supported devices on their website, but it works perfectly fine just like any other phone would.
Forfeit time! Time for time for it!
Let's see if we see any lag on here or anything.
2, 1, fight!
Definitely some stutter there for a second. Still playable, but definitely not as smooth as it was on the Chromecast, and definitely not as smooth as it was on PC. You can see here it's really lagging there. Still perfectly playable, but just not as smooth as it was on PC. Let's go ahead and give another game a shot here. Let's go ahead and give Rage 2 a little bit of a quick look here. So you can see here, I'm within Rage 2. I could drive. The L is how you shoot. But it's crazy to be playing a game like this, obviously on a device like this. Because, like I said before, this is not a game that obviously would be handling on this device. And you're sitting here and you're basically playing Rage 2 on a mobile phone, basically. Hard to play this game through a viewfinder and not crash. And apparently we're going the wrong way. It's awkward. But yeah, you guys, I'm really far away from the destination on where I left off in this game. But this gives you an idea of, you know, what to expect in the game, what the graphics are like. Oh, wait.
Yep, it's designed to pick these old signals up. It could be an old arc. If it's untampered with, it might still have weapons and gear inside. You should really check it out.
You can see here I can shoot if I want to. I didn't even see this guy on the floor before. So again, not as smooth as it would be on a Chromecast and stuff when you're using Wi-Fi. But it's not terrible, but it's not perfect. And I have pretty strong Wi-Fi, as I showed you before. Oh, I see he's up there. See some guys over there. Got smacked by someone.
Security scanning not available. Nearby hostile
Cover up and deal with this fucker.
So yeah, that gives you guys an idea of what Google Stadia runs like on here. The buttons were all fine. There wasn't pixelating or blurring, but there was definitely some visual skipping and freezing, is what I would call that. So it runs, you know, well enough for you to be able to play, but you are going to notice some inconsistencies while you're running on Wi-Fi, from my experience on here. So let's go ahead and now finally dive into Xbox Game Pass, or xCloud, since we finally have something here. Now remember that this is a preview. Technically it's not the latest version or anything like that, or the last version that's going to come out here September 15th, but this is pretty much what's going to be happening. So I'm going to do Halo 5 here, get into a multiplayer match of Halo 5, and we're going to compare what it looks like. Now remember that on Google Stadia you're probably running the game at 1080p when you're using a device like this, since that's what this device screen is. It's 1920 by 1080. On xCloud, everything is running at 720p because that's what they want the resolution to be at mobile. So regardless on what your screen does, the rendering resolution is going to be 720p. So it should have an easier time, of course, of running the game because it's not running at the same resolution Google Stadia was. But I've played this game before, and to my eyes, it still looks really good, even though it's running at 720p. Halo looks fantastic, and the fact that you're able to play Halo on a device like this, again, is awesome, and be able to play this on an Android phone on the go or anything like that is awesome.
Target bottom mid. Ping one.
Oh boy, got killed. Guy from behind. Now, playing Halo on a device like this without actually using an Xbox controller like they want you to, works when you're on the go and stuff like that. Like, I love this device because it could do so many things, but it's definitely not as good as an Xbox controller would be. Because this doesn't have all the buttons. That guy really just took my kills, too. You see, the game looks really good. As you can see, I'm getting rocked right now. That blue guy on our team from behind us did absolutely nothing. because he's trying to go over there and hit him in the back instead of just taking a shot at him so he would stop killing us all. But he's like, no, I'm not. I'll take that kill though. Rock. I got a couple kills though.
Seconds to railgun.
Aw, you're a bitch. But yeah, guys, that gives you guys an idea. Of what Xbox does, and you can see that there was some artifacting there. And I'm gonna get into this a little bit more in my final thoughts. But what I do like, I'm getting rocked here. What I do seem to notice in comparison between xCloud and Google Stadia that I actually prefer on xCloud side is that when there's a connection problem, especially when you're going to be running these on mobile devices and going out and about and you're driving in a car and stuff, when there's a connection dip, the first thing that happens, and usually the only thing that happens, is those artifacts that you just saw. So the gameplay doesn't change. You could still move your character. Your FPS doesn't drop or anything like that. You just get visual artifact. And for me, I'd rather take the visual artifact as opposed to the game stuttering all over the place and FPS being dropped and me not being able to hit my controls correctly and all that other stuff. So I like it that way because of that reason, because I like that it just does the artifacting for a brief second until it catches back up, and I'd much rather that than just losing complete control of the game and the game just stuttered like a crazy mess, which seems to be what Stadia does. And my experience is that it doesn't do like the visual artifacting. Instead, it does what you guys notice in the game. It will visually slow down or something like that. So just very different on how those two games do things. But yeah, that gives you guys an idea of what Halo runs like on here. So, of course, on Xbox, xCloud, you have the entire library. Well, not the entire library, but a big library of games, because they're using Xbox Game Pass, and most of those games should be on here. So you can see all the different games that are already on here as it is. So let's go ahead and jump into Forza. Here we go with the race. And we are now playing Forza. Didn't realize I had this on manual, but it's alright. Yeah, you can see it's running extremely well. Playing Forza on a mobile device, guys. Playing a full-fledged AAA game on Xbox. And of course, it looks really good. Yeah, so let's exit out of that game. You can easily just quit out, and then you're back over here. The last game we're going to try is Killer Instinct. Give you guys an idea of the fighting on xCloud, just like I did on Stadia. Got some artifacting here for a second. But it did clear up. But you can see the artifacting. It might annoy you for a second, but the game clears up right away, and the game doesn't slow down. It just has some visual artifacts, and the controls are still working as they should when that happens. Also, this game is just really fun. Still suck at fighters, but it's still fun. So yeah, that gives you guys an idea on both of these platforms and the games running on both of them currently and what those features are like. Let's go ahead and get to the table now. Let's talk about everything we just saw and what I think about both of these services compared to each other, Google Stadia versus Xbox streaming, and streaming in general for me and for everyone else. Alright guys, so you guys just saw gameplay from a lot of different games on Google Stadia and some xCloud an early preview as well right now on these devices. And let's start off with Google Stadia first. So Google Stadia, obviously, as you guys saw, when it came to my PC, for the most part, 95% of the time ran extremely well. There were some visual hitches and visual slowdowns, especially for whatever reason, mostly in the Orcs Must Die 3 game. So I don't know if that's a game optimization issue, because remember, not everything is related to streaming. It could be that the game is just not optimized in that section, or it's lagging behind because of a certain part of that game. Just look at what on your PC. You could have the most powerful PC in the world, but the game could still hitch at a section for no reason at all, and it's got nothing to do with your PC. It's just the optimization of the game. So that is possible, but I did try that game multiple times on my PC throughout the last week, and it still has that sometimes. So I don't know if it's the game as opposed to just the Stadia or something like that. It could be a combination of both. But regardless, 95% of the time it's fine. It's just some visual hitching and stuff like that you can see and you guys saw in the video. With that particular game especially, the other ones for the most part on PC, 95% of the time ran fine with no issues at all. When we switched over to the Chromecast and did those games as well, which is of course also wired, but the connection can't be as fast because of the Ethernet port on the actual Chromecast. Only goes up to 100 megabits per second as opposed to your PC, which usually has an Ethernet jack that goes up to 1,000 like mine does. On the Chromecast, it still worked really well for the games that we tested. Grid looked outstanding in HDR and 4K. The game that we tested in 4K and HDR looked really good. No hitches at all, no issues at all with that game running. The Power Rangers game, every so often might do some hitching or something like that, or some slowdown. Very rarely on the Chromecast. Again, 90 to 95% of the time it was perfectly fine. Grid, for whatever reason, was perfect 100% of the time. Power Rangers, 95% of the time was fine on the Chromecast. Now, bringing it over to actual mobile devices, and I think this is where we have to have that conversation, because I don't know about you guys, but these streaming services are not something I'm excited about to use at home, for the most part. It's cool that for Google Stadia, I can play it on the Chromecast and I can play it on my PC. I think Xbox definitely needs to do that, and there is people already doing it on Xbox to bring it over to the PC with an app. But I think that they need to do it. But I already have an Xbox at home. I have a powerful PC at home, and I don't think that's changing in any year anytime soon. I'm still going to have the best console that you can get. I'm still going to make my PC the best I can do as far as affordability and stuff. And I'll always rather be playing on native hardware. But where streaming services succeed is, of course, being able to play these games on the devices that usually can't handle them. If you have a PC that can't handle it, if you have a mobile phone and you're on the go, that is where this thing shines. And I tested this on Wi-Fi on my mobile device, and as you can see, there was definitely a lot more hitching and stuff like that when it came to Google Stadia than it was on the Chromecast on the PC, as to be expected, because Wi-Fi isn't as fast, and it's just a wireless device. There's naturally going to be more hitching than if you're plugged in through an Ethernet with games like this. Now, I will say that for the most part, it was still playable, and if I was, having this device with me on the go and stuff like that, and this is the experience I was getting right now, and being able to play these games on a device that I would never be able to play unless if I was home on an actual console or PC, I'd be perfectly happy with it. Like I said, it all depends on your Wi-Fi connectivity. And mine being really good for the most part, Google Stadia ran pretty well. But like I said, instead of it being 95% as good, it was probably more like 80 to 85% with more hitching and more visual slowdowns and stuff like that on Google Stadia than there would have been on those two other devices that I showed off. Now, when you switch over to the Xbox xCloud streaming service that we tried on this device, it's running at 720p. So it does that no matter what. That's the cap resolution that it has right now. So it's capped lower than, of course, what Google Stadia is doing, where it can do up to 4K on those devices, or on this device doing 1080p. But I'd rather on mobile device take the 720p because I still think, like you saw Halo and Forza and stuff, on a device this small, looks outstanding, and it will take less resources as far as speed goes. And when you're traveling on the go and you're using 4G and 5G when it comes out and stuff, I'd rather take that 720p on a device like this, at least for the time being, until their technology develops. That's just my opinion. But regardless, as you guys saw, Halo and Forza looked and ran really good. Now, comparing that service to Google Stadia, what it was doing on this small device, what I seem to notice is that Xbox is favoring visual artifacts. So when your connection dips, you'll just see visual artifacts on the screen. You saw a couple of times that happen in our gameplay, and it picked up really quickly right afterwards with no issues as far as, you know, your input and the gameplay. You're still able to control. Nothing happened with your controls, and the game isn't slowing down. You're just getting visual artifacts. On the Google Stadia, it doesn't do visual artifacts. For the most part, the game just literally slows down or gets really sluggish. It's very different than what I noticed happening on xCloud. And I would much rather have what xCloud is doing with the visual artifacts and then it picking right up in a second or two once your connection comes back up, as opposed to what Google Stadia is doing, which is just making the game seem to be like pitching and FPS dropping and your controls not working as good because of the fact that your connection dropped. So I much prefer what xCloud is doing in that regard. And xCloud seems to be working really well on this device on Wi-Fi. I had a better experience with xCloud on this device on my Wi-Fi than I did on Google Stadia. I think it ran much better. I like the visual artifact issue. If it has to happen, I'd rather take that. It happened only twice in the games that we played. And it just ran really smooth. And yes, it's running at 720p versus the 1080p Google Stadia is running at. But on a small screen like this, Halo and Forza still look fantastic, just like all the other games on Stadia did. So I'd much rather have that resolution to keep the connection more steady when you're on the go and moving. But overall, I'm going to keep Google Stadia for now. I'm going to keep the premium subscription and see what happens. Like I said, though, my primary demographic for streaming services right now, at least, is going to be in the fact that I can take it with me on the go. I'm not going to, for the most part, be sitting at my TV playing in 4K on Google Stadia, unless, of course, we're talking about exclusives, which is how they have to get people, just like any other console. If I was at home and I wanted to play Orcs Must Die 3, right now it's a Google Stadia exclusive, I'm going to turn on my Stadia and play it, because that is the only way to play it, and it's still going to run extremely well. It might not be as perfect as it would on a device that's, you know, physically in your home, but it's still going to run really, really well on a Chromecast that's hooked up via Ethernet. And if exclusive is out there, I'm going to play it that way. But am I going to sit at home and stream games when I have an Xbox console? I will get the Series X and a PS5 and all that stuff? No, unless if it's an exclusive, that's not what I'm going to be using it for. So what my excitement comes from is two things. One, taking it on the go, being able to play these games when I'm at someone else's house and still use my account, play with them, and be sitting on their couch while they're playing on their Xbox, maybe me holding my handheld playing it and playing on my phone is obviously a really cool experience that you can do with people. The second thing that I really like is what services these streaming services can actually bring. Google Stadia basically has one feature right now that is really cool. And games like Ghost Recon and The Crew 2, when you're playing with three other of your friends, it actually overlays those three friends on your screen if you want, and you can see exactly what they're doing in their game. So it's really cool that you can actually do that in the game and see where your friends are and see. It's almost like a video feed right into their game, overlaid on top of yours, and you can see all three of your friends on the side. Experiences like that only really can be done on the streaming side of things right now and not on native hardware because of the power it would take and all the things that it would take. That is the features that I'm excited about when it comes to Google Stadia and these streaming services. Features like that can't be done on consoles, can't be done on PC that easily, and just work really well on Stadia. And they have advertised other features on Google Stadia that people are still waiting for and they're excited about. You should be able to watch somebody streaming a game on Twitch or on YouTube or something. Basically, it's going to be on YouTube because it's Google. And you can basically just click one button, join, and you'd be right into their match and right into their game. All those features are cool. They're just not here yet. So when those features start rolling out, maybe in my mindset and other people's mindset, be like, hey, maybe if the game's running 95% as good on an Ethernet cable at home, and you have good internet like I do, and it's running 95% or higher as good as it would on native, but it has these exclusive features that you can, join really easily with your friends, or see your friend's video feed as soon as you're playing, and then develop more cool and interesting features like that baked into Stadia. I think that will start, changing my mind and be like, hey, should I buy this game on Stadia so I could also playing it on the go, but even at home have a really cool experience that I'm not getting on console? That's going to be where the interesting landscape changes and what I'm excited to see in the future. Same thing with xCloud. When I use that on the go, if that's going to be features that they add that are exclusive on there, I don't know if they're going to, because I think their demographic is a little bit different than Stadia. They already have an Xbox console, so I think for them it's just about streaming those games when you're on the go, and that's totally fine, because now I have an Xbox basically on the go and an Xbox on a portable device that I never had before. I'm not going to use it at home, but when I'm out and about at a friend's house or stuff like that, or it's going to be an awesome experience to be able to do that. So I'm still excited about streaming services, and those are the two reasons why. So I'm excited to see what the future holds for both of these streaming services, and how these features and things evolve here in the coming years, and how this actually progresses. Something else that's going to be interesting in the future that I'm interested in seeing is what these companies are going to do with their streaming services when new, more powerful hardware comes out. You would assume that they're going to scale with it. So like Google Stadia games now are basically hovering around like an regular Xbox to an Xbox One X, somewhere there in the middle. And xCloud is, of course, running on Xbox hardware. So when the new Xbox Series X comes out and more powerful hardware comes out, is Google Stadia going to upgrade their hardware so now your games look better than they used to before, and basically instead of it looking like an Xbox, now it's going to look like an Xbox One X, and the graphics are going to be much improved? You would assume that they have to, because third-party games and stuff are going to start coming out, and they're going to start supporting eventually in a year or two from now. They won't do Xbox ports anymore. They're just going to be concentrating on Xbox One X. So that's cool that you basically get hardware features, hardware improvements, and better graphics without spending a dime. And that's obviously what the whole purpose of Google Stadia is. You don't have to buy hardware, and it's going to work, really extremely well for people who have good internet at home, and you don't have to buy hardware. So that's going to be interesting how that unfolds for both of these platforms as well. That I'm excited to see how they handle that, and how that progresses, and how fast they actually roll out that stuff. So, and I think Google Stadia, obviously being the one that doesn't actually have a console, has to be more on top of that than xCloud does, of course. But yeah, I think those are my overall thoughts on both of these streaming platforms currently. I'm happy to have that both of these things exist. I'm happy that I got into Stadia. Can't wait to see their exclusives coming out and what they do with those, since they do have a couple of exclusives coming out for the system already, as opposed to the couple that are already there. And being able to have a portable Xbox with me and have all those exclusives everywhere with me is awesome. Now let's talk about pricing structure when it comes to Google Stadia and xCloud. So on the Google Stadia side, it's actually free if you just want to play games in 1080p with no surround sound. So you can go in there right now, you can subscribe to the service, and you don't have to pay a dime to use the actual service. Now what you pay for is you pay games a la carte. So if a game costs $59.99, you buy the game, and then you can play it on their service for free. You can also subscribe to their Pro membership subscription for $10 a month, and that gives you a rolling access to whatever games are included on there right now. So things like Orc Must Die 3 that we showed off, the Power Rangers game that we showed off, Grid, are all included in the Pro membership. So you can go in there and you get a collection of games. I think right now they're up to like 23 games, and they add more every so often, and it's part of your subscription, and as long as you're subscribed, you can play those games anytime you want. On the flip side of the xCloud service, it is strictly basically like a Netflix style service. You basically pay $15 a month, and this is a lot easier if you're in the Xbox ecosystem already, because it gets you access to Xbox Live. So if you have an Xbox, it gets you access to Xbox Live. It gets you access to Game Pass on the Xbox and PC. So for those of us who are playing on Xbox and PC, you get access to the whole entire library of over 100 games on xCloud, including every Microsoft-made game from all their 15 studios. They go right into all those AAA games, and they go right into that service, and you can play them on day one, including the Microsoft Flight Simulator that just came out and all that stuff. And then you also get access to xCloud streaming. Not every game that's on Game Pass is available on streaming. It depends on what's on there, but there's definitely a bigger library of xCloud games that are going to be included for streaming than there currently is on Stadia based on the subscription prices on both. So the value of money definitely leans towards xCloud model where you just pay a flat fee and you get access to their whole catalog of games. And on top of that, you can actually use xCloud to stream games that you aren't even on Game Pass, but you actually own on your Xbox. You can make Xbox basically the host, and you can stream any games as long as your Xbox is on that you own on Xbox and stream it right to your device, no matter where you are, whether you're home or not. So even if they're not on Game Pass, or even if you just straight up own them, you could still stream those games directly from your Xbox right into the actual app. So that's an awesome feature as well that a lot of people don't talk about. So they're definitely going towards different things because on the one hand, on Google Stadia, you don't need to own any hardware. You can basically just go on the website on on Stadia.com on any browser, and you can be playing a game for free in 1080p and just pay for the actual game, and you're good and ready to go. And you don't need any devices. So that's a lot different than what we're used to now. Instead of actually having to buy hardware or buy a PC, any device that you can get out there, any PC as long as you have a PC that basically can access a modern browser. You should be good to go. Or any cell phone or anything like that you're already using, you're good to go. No extra hardware needed. So all you're paying is for the game. So I don't really have an issue with the fact that they're going for the model that, hey, you have to buy these games and you own them. But then you also have the monthly subscription that they're adding games to. So they're kind of going and towing the line of both. And I'm okay with them charging the price of the games and stuff and you owning them and stuff because they're not going to give you those games for free, and you can't expect to get every game that's AAA out there from third-party developers for free on a monthly subscription a la Netflix. Microsoft doesn't do that either. They have a giant catalog, obviously, but they're not giving you access to every AAA game that comes out, from all these third-party publishers that everyone wants to play. You're not going to get the new GTA 6 on Game Pass. You're not going to get, all these other AAA games coming out on Game Pass. You're still going to have to buy those and stream them directly from your Xbox if they're not on xCloud. So I think that's an unrealistic expectation from anybody. So I think having a monthly subscription like they both do, and also being able to buy them if you want them to, like the way Stadia does it, is a fair way to do it. As long as the $10 a month that you're paying for not only gets you those games, and hopefully the quality and the collection grows based on those games, but also gets you access to streaming in 4K and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, I think if you're in the Xbox ecosystem already and you like the Microsoft exclusive, you're definitely getting more value for your money for $15. That includes all three of those services that you're going to want anyway. And get Game Pass and get the streaming service and can stream from your Xbox for many games you own. The value is definitely on the xCloud side for sure. But they're not streaming in 4K yet. They will, and I guarantee you it probably won't cost extra or anything based on the philosophy that they used. But right now, for sure, the Xbox side has the better value for your money and the larger catalog of games by far compared to what Google Stadia has. I think that's what's holding Stadia back right now is their catalog of games and being day and date when these third-party AAA games start coming out. They need to be on Stadia the same day, not like 5 months later. Not a game that hits Stadia that's been out for a year. Those are cool, but that's not going to move anybody to get Stadia. So I think they both have their pluses and stuff. Google Stadia's biggest plus, not needing any hardware to play them at all. And you don't need any hardware to play xCloud either. You can technically just sign up for xCloud and play them, but you're going to get a lot more money of value if you're in the Xbox ecosystem already. So if you guys have any questions about anything you guys seen in today's video, of course, leave those comments down below. If not, thank you guys for watching. Till next time.
Tech, UrGamingTechie is the gaming tech. UrGamingTechie, gaming tech. Eating brekkie is the gaming tech. Going for a brekkie is the gaming tech. UrGamingTechie is the gaming tech. UrGamingTechie.